for me, and I think we've spent enough time together now over the years for the massive majority of you to trust me to steer a course through this conversation. I feel much more confident doing so than I did even 5 years ago. Because for me, the phrase that resonates is always when it happens again or never again. It took me a long time to properly understand this, and I still don't fully have the words to articulate it in a way that won't upset many people who are broadly or even perhaps completely supportive of everything that Israel does in these sort of situations. And I can't criticize you, and I will now get it in the neck from other people for not being more. I can't criticize how you feel. I can criticize what the government of a country does and the reasoning behind it. But the notion, as that thread on Twitter rather beautifully conveyed, the notion that next time they come for us, we will have somewhere safe to go. How you stop that becoming, absolutely nothing is off the table when it comes to protecting the haven to which we will flee next time it happens. And I'm afraid you'd have to be a more optimistic human being than me, and quite possibly utterly divorced from the political realities of the last 10 years, albeit it's largely involved different targets. The historical targeting of Jews is absolutely undeniable and irrefutable, and the political processes that lead to it are probably enjoying more success, albeit with different targets, than they have at any other point in my life. And that's the bit that as an outsider who cares, that's the bit that most scares. Because I don't know how you ever climb down from that position. The alternative is, of course, there will never be peace in the Middle East until Hamas learn to love their children more than they hate Jews. So that will also upset a lot of people listening to the program, but it's something I don't even need to check my inbox. 10:14 is the time. I don't even need to check my inbox to know that somebody would have made that point or made that claim already. I remember being very surprised as a relative innocent in these matters when the Israeli leader who seemed to be coming close to a two-state solution was assassinated by an Israeli Jewish student. I didn't understand that at the time, and in a couple of ways I still don't, but I'm a lot closer to understanding it than I used to be. Two-state solution historically was possibly mythical or an overly optimistic light at the end of this particularly bloody tunnel. But even that, I would say, in the course of the last 10 years has perhaps dulled or dimmed a bit. And then, of course, there's the mea culpa, which is, why do we only talk about this stuff when these horrors are happening? And I really think this is important, when you are walking through the allegations and accusations of antisemitism or apartheid, the two sides of this divide, it's incredibly important, I think, to recognise that the distinction between hating people because of an accident of birth, whether it's ethnic or religious, and hating the actions of a government. But that notion of a two-state solution being anathema to people on both sides of the divide seems to me to be the most depressing element of the whole historical conflict. That there are, whether it is Hamas's original charter calling for the destruction of Israel and you could say rhetoric or ambition, both work, of driving all Jews into the sea. And then you have at the other end of the argument, the idea that whatever we do to Palestinian people will be justified. Whatever we do to innocent Palestinian civilians as a response to the actions of our military enemies, whether you consider them terrorists or freedom fighters, doesn't really matter. The rhetoric of everything we do is justified, anything we do is justified, is to an outsider, and again, I'm conscious that this will hurt people, but to an outsider, they're almost identical positions. So, I hate this question. It's very important to ask it. Is there any hope of peace?